making headlines this hour. Chief Government Spokesperson Mohammad Hussein Sharif reveals the government-developed media village in Hulumale Phase 1 is on track for completion by June. Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade announces the Mauritius nascent maritime bunkering sector has yielded nearly $60 million in revenue. Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy states that the government will begin the installation of solar hybrid power systems across 23 inhabited islands this month.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. Now the news in detail. Chief Government Spokesperson Mohammad Hussein Sharif reveals the government-developed media village in Hulumale Phase 1 is on track for completion by June.
Speaking to journalists held as part of the Presser with the Spokes series, Hussein Sharif revealed that the facility, which will offer 34 spaces for media organizations, is scheduled to open to media professionals in the middle of this year. The spokesperson assured that despite administrative changes involving the ministry previously entrusted with the project, construction work continues at a rapid pace and remains within the projected timeline. The Media Village represents a key initiative under President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's administration to address the long-standing space constraints faced by local media organizations. During this year's presidential address, President Muiz highlighted how media outlets have been forced to rent office and studio spaces from private buildings at a significantly high cost, straining their operational resources and limiting growth opportunities. The project is being developed in a building constructed by the State Trading Organization STO 17 years ago as a city hotel, which has since been operated by World Business Private Limited since August of last year. Under the government's new strategic vision, the facility is being redeveloped and rebranded as the Manhattan Grand. The Media Village forms part of a broader development framework that also includes establishing a youth center, a medical college, and a heritage college within the same complex. Once completed, the facility will provide low-cost rentable offices and studio space designed to support the media industry's development and growth according to the income it generates.
Chief Government Spokesperson Mohammad Hussein Sharif reveals the President's office has processed and provided responses to 233 Right to Information RTI applications submitted during the past year.
According to the statistics presented by the spokesperson during the press briefing held as part of the Presser with the Spokes, the President's office received a total of 288 RTI applications during the covered period. Of these, 233 have been successfully answered, while 55 remain pending consideration. The breakdown reveals that between May and December of last year, the office received 182 applications and provided replies to 170 of them. Since the beginning of this year through the present date, an additional 106 applications have been received, with 63 having received responses thus far. The Chief Government Spokesperson took the opportunity to address certain patterns observed in the submission of RTI applications. Hussein Sharif noted that RTIs are frequently submitted by anonymous individuals seeking the same information, which he suggested may not always align with intended purpose of the transparency legislation. He emphasized that such applications are typically submitted with specific questions aimed at achieving particular objectives, though he did not elaborate on whether this observation reflected any broader policy concerns. Hussein Sharif also clarified the boundaries of information disclosure under the RTI framework. He stated that information which could potentially disrupt foreign relations, classified details contained in financial agreements, and matters pertaining to national security cannot be disclosed through the RTI process. In addition to addressing RTI-related matters, the spokesperson used the occasion to share supplementary statistics regarding the President's Office international visits to various foreign countries.
Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade announces that the President's Office, the Maldives and Maritime bunkering sector has yielded nearly $60 million in revenue.
The state facilitated service, managed through the State Trading Organization (STO), has demonstrated robust fiscal performance since its inauguration in September 2024. Strategically implemented under the administration of President Dr. Mohammad Muiz to diversify the national economy, the initiative officially contributed $59.90 million to the nation's coffers by the end of last month. The sector's growth is anchored in specialized petroleum products, with 90% of the fuel utilized being entirely new to the domestic market. The sale of low-sulfur oil has fortified the STO, which reported total revenue of $356.09 million in its first quarter report. Fuel volume sold through offshore channels rose by 18 million liters this quarter, aided by a partnership with the Swiss-based Vitol Group. The administration of President Muiz intends to further solidify the initiative as part of a sustained effort to diversify the macroeconomic landscape and secure new streams of national income.
As part of President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's pledge to transform Addu City into a business hub, a special forum for business owners is scheduled to be held in Addu City.
This was announced at a press conference held at the President's office by the Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade, Mohammad Saeed. He stated that the government aims to provide concessions for businesses in Addu City from 2027 to 2029 as part of efforts to advance the business sector. The business forum is being held on the 13th and 14th May to meet with stakeholders in the industry and achieve this goal. The minister detailed that the key objective of this meeting is to provide information about the opportunities and incentives available for businesses. This forum is open to business stakeholders in tourism, construction, and other industries. Furthermore, the government is making preparations to begin the free zone activities in the business harbour in Hitadu, Addu City. Minister Said highlighted that this is a pilot initiative being carried out by Modi Sports Limited MPL, with work currently progressing. In his presidential address this year, President Dr. Mohammad Muiz has stated that incentives will be given to businesses in designated zones to encourage small and medium investments. For instance, Addu City is one such zone to be developed, with government aims to establish other zones for expanding businesses and increasing economic activity.
The Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade, Mohammad Saeed, states that the Maldives Transport and Contracting Company (MTCC) operated Male taxi line application will be open to the public by next week in order to streamline taxi services.
He stated this while speaking at a press conference held at the President's office. The Transport Minister Mohammad Saeed informed that MTCC's taxi line application has now been approved by the Apple Store. The application will also be ready to download on the App Store by next week, he added. The minister noted currently taxi services are provided via a web application, but a mobile application would allow for direct booking of taxi services and provide ease for customers. According to data from MTCC, taxis take on average just 8 minutes to arrive after placing a call. The average taxi ride is about 12.2 minutes in length, with the demand for such services on the rise. From April 13th to 18th alone, 11,128 calls were placed for taxis. MTCC detailed, after the launch of the web application, 7,251 rides were booked from April 18th to the 1st of May. The minister added that since the service was commenced, the number of rides taken in Male have increased by 50%. The taxi service was launched as part of the government efforts to resolve the transportation issue faced in Male. Male taxi services were officially inaugurated by President Dr. Mohammad Muiz in a ceremony held at Hulumale Central Park in the April 2, 2025. MTCC has stated that in addition to the website, taxis can still be booked by dialing 1655 with fare charges according to that determined by the Transport Ministry.
Data released by the Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises shows that the Maldives has generated $57.91 million in green tax revenue so far this year.
This marks an 18% increase, equivalent to $9.10 million compared with the same period in 2025, when revenue stood at $48.81 million. Introduced in 2016, the green tax is levied on tourists staying at resorts, guest houses, hotels, and safari vessels to support environmental projects across the country. Green tax rates were revised on the 1st of January 2025, with fees increasing from $6 to $12 for higher-end tourist establishments and from $3 to $6 for other accommodation providers. Children under the age of 2 remain exempt. The government uses the revenue to fund environmental initiatives nationwide, including beach protection and cleanup programs, as well as water supply and sewerage infrastructure projects. The rise in green tax income comes alongside continued growth in tourist arrivals. According to figures from the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation, more than 800,000 visitors have arrived in the Maldives so far this year. Although visitor numbers initially declined compared with last year, due to temporary flight suspensions linked to the Middle East conflict, arrivals have gradually recovered following the resumption of services by several airlines. The Maldives is currently recording an average of 6,618 tourist arrivals per day.
The Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy states the government will begin the installation of solar hybrid power systems across 23 inhabited islands this month in an effort to curb expenditures on petroleum-based electricity.
The project, which is slated to commence implementation in May, targets islands across the Kaf, Alif Dal and Vavu atolls. Preparations for the rollout are finalized, the ministry stated, with prerequisite surveys concluded and essential hardware already in the country. The hybrid systems are projected to yield a combined output of 5.8 megawatts of energy. This expansion is part of a broader mandate to ensure that renewable sources account for 33% of all electricity generated nationwide by the close of 2030. The administration aims to double the nation's renewable energy capacity to 220 megawatts over the next 2 years. Grid upgrades and battery storage enhancements are currently being executed to support this generation growth, the ministry noted in a briefing to PSM News. Design work is proceeding for an 80.3 megawatt per hour battery energy storage framework spanning 38 islands. Achieving a threshold of at least 200 megawatts of renewable infrastructure is a critical requirement to alleviate the severe financial strain conventional energy production places on the state budget, policymakers have estimated. To advance this objective, the government has launched an expansive 100 megawatt floating solar project situated within the nation's special economic zone.
Managing Director of Fahid Diriulung Corporation Limited FDC, Hamdan Shakil, states that residents of FDC flats seeking to modify their registration can now do so through documents made available on the company's online portal. Residents living in FDC flats in Holomale Phase 2 have faced difficulties in modifying their registration details for the flats. In response, FTC has held discussions with the Male City Council to identify solutions to the issue. Hamdan stated that in line with the government's digitalization roadmap, arrangements have now been made for all required documents to be submitted to the City Council online through the FTC portal. Hamdan also expressed hope that the City Council would facilitate an easier process for residents seeking to complete the registration changes. FTC has developed 32 residential towers comprising of 4,000 flats in Holomale Phase 2. More than 30,000 people are expected to reside in the flats. The Maldives Tourism Development Corporation (MTDC) generates $1.25 million in revenue during the first quarter of the year, signaling a marginal 0.8% top-line contraction from the $1.26 million collected in the preceding quarter.
While revenue remained relatively stable, the organization's profitability experienced a more pronounced downturn, according to financial disclosures. Operating profit fell to $209,869, marking a 44.5% decline from the $378,699 recorded in the previous period. Net profit for the quarter settled at $178,389, a 31% contraction from the $259,247 achieved at year-end. Currently, revenue relies exclusively on leasing Kihava Huravali in Ba Atoll and Maguduwa in Gaf Dal Atoll. To diversify, the company is advancing a luxury destination on Nagoshi in Hadal Atoll. Construction is progressing towards a 2027 opening, which will facilitate a substantial revenue expansion, company officials noted. Infrastructure growth continues with the finalizing of a new corporate headquarters. The interior fit-out of the office building is in its concluding phases, and all related construction activity are projected to be completed by June, representatives have stated. Once the facility is officially inaugurated and operational, it will serve as an additional catalyst for driving future revenue growth for the corporation.
Rawaf Mina, the Saudi Arabian Mutawif appointed to provide services for Maldivian pilgrims during Hajj, assures that proper arrangements will be made for pilgrims from the Maldives during this year's Hajj season.
The assurance was given during a meeting held with the Maldives Hajj Mission in Makkah. Chief Executive Officer of Rawaf Mina, Zuhair bin Abdul Hamid Sadayo, met with the head of the Maldives Hajj office in Makkah, Sheikh Imtitau Abbas, along with other members of the Hajj Mission as part of the discussions. Mutawwifs are guides appointed by the Saudi Arabian Ministry of Hajj and Umrah to facilitate services for Hajj pilgrims. Rawaf Mina has been appointed as the official Mutawwif for Maldivian pilgrims. Discussions during the meeting focused on measures taken so far to provide services for Maldivian pilgrims, arrangements related to the mashairs, the sacred sites visited during Hajj, and preparations being made ahead of the arrival of pilgrims in Makkah. Mutawwifs are responsible for the welfare and overall facilitation of Hajj pilgrims throughout their pilgrimage. Their responsibilities include welcoming pilgrims upon arrivals in Makkah, arranging transportation, and providing food, water, and beverages. They also coordinate healthcare services and distribute Nusuk cards, which are essential official documents used to ensure the safety and identification of pilgrims, along with security bands used to facilitate assistance when required. In addition, Mutawwifs conduct awareness activities and assist pilgrims with religious services throughout the Hajj period. They are also responsible for arranging accommodation tents in Arafat and Mina, transportation within Makkah and to Medina and Jeddah, as well as ensuring hotels meet required standards. Mutawwifs also communicate with hotel managers, travel agents, and pilgrims regarding logistical matters. In emergency situations, Mutawwifs coordinate ambulance services and healthcare assistance for patients. Mutawwifs provide services to pilgrims from their arrival in Saudi Arabia until the completion of their pilgrimage, helping to ensure a smoother and more organized Hajj experience for worshippers.
Japan's Nikkei share average shoots to a record high, and the nation's bonds rally as financial markets reopen after holidays, catching up with optimism over strong technology earnings and signs of a potential peace deal in the Middle East.
The benchmark Nikkei 225 index rose 4.19% to 62,009.59, breaking the 62,000 mark for the first time. Japanese government bonds JGBs rose after a three-day trading break that saw the yen appreciate on suspected intervention by authorities in Tokyo. The yen brought 156.33 per dollar, largely steady a day after a sprint to a 10-week high of 155 fueled talk of further official support. Wall Street indexes hit record highs overnight as positive results from advanced micro devices propelled euphoria over the red-hot artificial intelligence sector. Iran said it is reviewing a U.S. proposal to end the more than 2-month war, while President Donald Trump said the U.S. has had very good talks with Tehran.
Israel strikes Beirut for the first time since agreeing to a ceasefire with Hezbollah last month, with Israel saying it targeted a commander of the militant group's allied Radwan force in the city's southern suburbs.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz announced the action in a joint statement. Israeli media reported that the commander was killed in the strike, but there was no immediate confirmation from the Israeli military or Hezbollah. The Lebanon ceasefire has underpinned a broader U.S.-Iran truce, with a halt to Israeli strikes in Lebanon being a key Iranian demand. As Iran and the U.S. say they are drawing closer to a deal to halt their conflict, the strikes threaten the ceasefire that halted Israeli attacks on Beirut. Israeli troops have remained in areas south of the Litani River, and strikes continued in southern Lebanon.
Greece's Maria Sakkari overcomes Austrian youngster Lili Tegger 5-7, 6-3, 6-0 in the first meeting between the two players to progress to the Italian Open second round.
The world number 47 was too much for her 18-year-old Austrian counterpart, ranked 45 places below, after going down a set initially, and will be looking to progress further than her second-round exit in last year's competition. But Sakkari will have to take on tournament second seed Elena Rybakina in the next round, who she has not beaten since 2022 and has a 5-1 losing record against. The 26-year-old Kazakh will be looking to bounce back from a disappointing defeat to Anastasia Potapova in Madrid, an uncharacteristically early exit in an excellent season so far. Earlier on court, Yelena Ostapenko brushed aside Italian number 4 Lucrezia Stefanini 6-0, 6-1 in just 54 minutes. It was the first time since 2016 that Latvian Ostapenko had conceded just one game in a tour-level event, whilst the 28-year-old also converted all 6 of her break points. World number 36 Ostapenko will face American Amanda Anisimova in the second round, the tournament's 6th seed, who have a 1-1 head-to-head record.
A robotics startup says it has built an AI brain that can teach humanoid robots new physical skills in days rather than months, as the race to put human-shaped machines to work in factories and warehouses accelerates.
In the London office of the UK-based startup Humanoid, a robot rolls across the floor, raises its arms and grips objects with mechanical hands. Humanoid says machines like this could one day work in warehouses, factories, and car plants, carrying out repetitive tasks in spaces built for people. Founded in 2024 by entrepreneur Artyom Sokolov, Humanoid is one of the wave of robotics companies betting that advances in artificial intelligence, AI, can make humanoid robots useful outside the lab. Sokolov says the company's secret sauce is not just the robot's body, but the AI system inside it.
We've built our own proprietary VLA model, Vision Language Action model, that help robots do different tasks in real world with human speed.
Humanoid calls that system kinetic.
So the AI systems are the most important aspect here. You could have designed similar hardware to this even a decade ago, but what's been missing are the brains and the control algorithms.
One example Canon says is walking. Humanoid says it trained its AI biped prototype to walk in 48 hours by creating a detailed digital version of the robot and letting it learn in simulation. Canon says a similar approach can be used to teach workplace tasks where a human demonstrates a job using the robot's cameras and grippers, and the data is used to train the AI system. Humanoid is targeting industrial users first, including logistics, manufacturing, warehouses, and automotive suppliers. The company has demonstrated wheeled humanoid robots as well as a two-legged version. It says production systems of its robots are expected later in 2026. Sokolov says Humanoid's edge is that it is building the full stack itself, from hardware to AI models to software applications. Humanoid says it plans to begin mass production in 2027, but it is entering an increasingly crowded field with several companies racing to put humanoid robots into workplaces. For Humanoid and the wider humanoid robotics industry, the challenge is moving from controlled demonstrations to real workplaces, where robots must prove they can work safely, reliably, and at commercial scale.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.